The conference room fell silent as the holographic image materialized above the table. Princess Hayrin stood perfectly still, her translucent silver skin catching the light in ways that made the human diplomats uncomfortable. She was beautiful in an alien way, with eyes that held 3 pupils each and hair that moved like it was underwater even in still air. 3 generations, she said, her voice carrying a melody that translation devices struggled to capture. That is all my people have left. The Earth representatives shifted in their seats. Ambassador Jiwoo leaned forward, her expression carefully neutral. She had prepared for many scenarios, but not this level of desperation from a species that had crossed half the galaxy. The Veltharian Empire spans 14 star systems. Hayrin continued. We have technology your scientists dream about. We have eliminated disease, hunger, and war among our people, but we cannot solve the one problem that will end us all. Our genetic diversity has collapsed. We are dying. A Russian diplomat raised his hand. What does this have to do with Earth? Everything, Hayrin said simply. We have tested every known species in the galactic community. Only one is biologically compatible with us. Only one can save my people from extinction. She paused. Humans, the room erupted. Questions flew from every direction. Ambassador Jiwoo held up her hand, calling for order. Princess, you are asking for volunteers to mate with your people? I am asking for more than volunteers, Hayrin said. By our law, I must choose first. I must select a human mate, and our union will determine if this path can save my species. If it succeeds, others will follow. If it fails... She did not finish the sentence. You want to marry a human, Jiwoo said slowly. Yes. The implications crashed through the room like a wave. A royal marriage between species. The first of its kind. The political weight alone could shift the balance of power across Earth and beyond. We will need time to select appropriate candidates, Jiwoo said, her mind already racing with possibilities. You have 30 days, Hayrin replied. Then I must choose. 30 days later, the selection station orbited Earth like a jewel. Thousands of humans had been transported up, each one representing their nation's finest. There were soldiers with chests full of medals, scientists with groundbreaking discoveries, athletes with perfect bodies, and leaders with powerful connections. Dae-hyun should not have been there. He stood in the assembly area, still wearing his work coveralls, holding a small bag with his personal belongings. Around him, men in tailored suits and military uniforms talked confidently about their chances. Dae-hyun just wanted to find someone who could fix the error. This is wrong, he said to the processing officer for the 3rd time. I'm not Dr. Dae-hyun, the xenobiologist. I'm just Dae-hyun. I fix air recyclers and water purifiers for the Mars colony program. The officer barely looked up from her screen. Your name is on the manifest. You're here. Protocol says no one leaves during selection period next. But next? Dae-hyun stepped aside, running a hand through his hair. This was bad. He had work to do back on Earth. The recycler system for the new Mars habitat was still giving errors, and he was the only one who understood the custom modifications. Instead, he was stuck on a station full of people who looked like they belonged in magazines. First time in space? Someone asked beside him. Dae-hyun turned to see a man in a Korean Special Forces uniform. His name tag read Captain Taemin. Everything about him screamed competence and confidence. Yeah, Dae-hyun admitted. You? Taemin laughed. 5th time. Did 2 tours on the lunar base. You nervous about meeting the princess? I'm nervous about being here at all. There's been a mistake. Everyone feels like that, Taemin said kindly. Imposter syndrome. But you were chosen for a reason. What's your specialty? Environmental systems. Air and water recycling mostly. Taemin's smile faltered slightly, but he recovered. That's practical. Good luck. He moved away to join a group of other soldiers. Dae-hyun sighed. Even the nice ones thought he did not belong here. The first 3 days were orientation. The humans learned about Veltharian culture, biology, and customs. Dae-hyun paid attention despite himself. The Veltharians were fascinating. Their bodies could survive in environments that would kill humans instantly. They lived for 300 years. They had built cities that floated in the clouds and ships that could fold space. But they had made one crucial mistake. In their quest for perfection, they had engineered their population too carefully. They had eliminated genetic problems, but also eliminated genetic diversity. Now they were all too similar. Birth rates had dropped. Genetic diseases they thought were extinct had returned. The species was collapsing inward on itself. Humans, chaotic and diverse and messy, were their answer. On the fourth day, the trials began. The first trial was combat. Daehyun watched from the observation area as soldiers and martial artists demonstrated their skills against holographic opponents. Captain Taemin moved like water, disarming 3 attackers in seconds. The crowd cheered. Daehyun's turn came. He faced the holographic opponent and promptly got knocked down. He stayed down. The trial ended. The second trial was problem-solving. Candidates were given complex puzzles involving xenobiology, physics, and strategy. A scientist from America solved hers in record time. A mathematician from India found an elegant solution that impressed even the Veltharian observers. Daehyun looked at his puzzle and saw immediately it was beyond him. He made his best guess and moved on. The third trial was different. It was a simulation of a crisis aboard a spaceship. Fire in the engine room, limited oxygen. 3 crew members trapped. The mission objective was to reach the escape pods and survive. One by one, candidates entered the simulation. Most saved themselves. A few tried to save crew members but ran out of time. Captain Taemin saved 1 crew member and completed the mission objective, earning high marks. When Daehyun entered the simulation, alarms were already blaring. He saw the mission objective flashing on his screen. He saw the countdown timer. He saw the escape pod route. Then he saw the trapped Veltharian technician. The technician was not part of the mission objective. Saving him would mean failing the trial. Daehyun did not think about it long. He just ran toward the technician. The collapsed section was unstable. Daehyun had to crawl through gaps barely wide enough for his body. The heat was intense even through the simulation. He reached the technician and saw the problem immediately. The safety harness was jammed in the collapsed doorframe. Daehyun pulled out his multi-tool. He always carried it, even in simulations. Years of working with environmental systems had taught him that problems usually came down to something simple: a jammed mechanism, a blocked filter, a loose connection. He pried the harness free, pulled the technician out, and helped him toward the escape pods. The timer hit 0. The simulation ended. Mission failed. In the observation deck, Princess Hayrin watched the screen go dark. Her attendant, Lady Sua, stood beside her. "The human failed the trial," Sua observed. "Did he?" Hayrin asked softly. She replayed the footage, watching the human in coveralls crawl through fire to save someone who was not part of the mission, someone who did not matter to his score. "Find out his name," Hayrin said. "Your Highness, his name. I want to know who he is." Lady Sua accessed the database. Daehyun, no title. Occupation listed as Environmental Systems Engineer. He appears to be here by clerical error. Hayrin watched the screen again. The human had not hesitated, had not calculated odds or weighed options. He had just acted, choosing compassion over success. "Interesting," she whispered. In his quarters, Daehyun lay on his bunk, staring at the ceiling. 3 trials, 3 failures. Maybe they would send him home now. He could get back to work, back to his normal life where he understood the rules and knew what he was doing. He did not know that his life had just changed forever. He did not know that a princess was asking about him. He did not know that in 2 days, she would make a choice that would shake 2 worlds. The next morning, Daehyun woke to find his quarters filled with notifications. Interview requests from Earth media. Messages from government officials. Even his mother had somehow gotten through the communication restrictions to ask if he was eating well. He ignored them all and went to breakfast. The cafeteria was divided into unofficial territories. The soldiers sat together trading stories. The scientists formed their own cluster, debating theories. The politicians and business leaders occupied the best tables near the windows. Daehyun grabbed a tray and found a corner by himself. "Mind if I join you?" Daehyun looked up to see a woman in a simple dress. She had the silver skin of a Veltharian, but her features were softer, more human. A hybrid, he realized. One of the rare children born from early contact programs. "Sure," he said. She sat down gracefully. "I am Lady Sua. I serve Princess Hayrin." Daehyun nearly choked on his rice. "Oh, hello." "The princess wanted me to meet you," Sua said. "She was impressed by your performance in the 3rd trial." "I failed the trial. You saved a life. To her, that is not failure." Daehyun did not know what to say to that. He pushed his food around his plate. I just did what seemed right. That is what impressed her, Sua said gently. Most candidates calculated the optimal path to success. You did not calculate. You simply acted with kindness. It was just a simulation. Was it? You treated it as real. You treated the holographic technician as a person worth saving even at cost to yourself. Sua stood. The princess asked me to tell you something. She said the trials measure what humans value. Yesterday she learned what you value. She left before Daehyun could respond. The trials continued over the next week. Each one revealed different aspects of the candidates. There was a trial testing scientific knowledge where a physicist from Germany shone. There was a trial testing physical endurance where an athlete from Kenya ran circles around everyone else. There was a trial testing artistic ability where a musician from Brazil created something that made even the Veltharians pause in wonder. Daehyun performed adequately in some trials and poorly in others. He was not the fastest or the strongest or the smartest. He was just average. Yet he kept noticing small things others missed. During a diplomatic simulation, he noticed that the Veltharian negotiator was using hand gestures that meant different things in human and Veltharian culture. He pointed it out, preventing what would have been an insulting misunderstanding. During a technology demonstration, he noticed that an advanced Veltharian device was overheating because its cooling system was not designed for Earth's oxygen-rich atmosphere. He suggested a simple modification that fixed the problem. During a cultural exchange session, he noticed that many Veltharian foods could not be eaten safely by humans, not because they were toxic, but because humans lacked a specific enzyme. He suggested a supplement that would allow humans to enjoy Veltharian cuisine, small things, practical things, the kind of things an engineer noticed. On the 8th day, there was an accident. A maintenance bot malfunctioned in one of the station's water recycling facilities. The system began to flood. Alarms blared. The station's crew scrambled to respond, but the facility was located in a restricted area that most humans had never seen. Daehyun heard the alarm and recognized it immediately. He had worked with similar systems for years. Without thinking, he ran toward the sound. Security tried to stop him. "Sir, you cannot go there. It is restricted." "The water recycling system is failing," Daehyun said. "I can fix it." "You are a candidate, not crew. I am an engineer." "Let me help." The security guard hesitated. Then water began pouring out from under the door. He stepped aside. Daehyun ran into chaos. Water was already ankle-deep. The Veltharian crew were trying to shut down the system, but the controls were not responding. The malfunction had locked them out. "Where is the manual override?" Daehyun shouted. A Veltharian engineer pointed to a panel submerged under rising water. "There, but it requires a bypass code we do not have." "No code needed," Daehyun said. He waded to the panel, pulled out his multi-tool, and opened the access hatch. Inside was a mess of circuits and conduits. To the Veltharians, it was advanced technology. To Daehyun, it was just plumbing with extra steps. He identified the problem quickly. The maintenance bot had damaged a pressure sensor, which triggered a safety protocol that opened all the valves simultaneously. The system thought it was preventing a rupture, but it was actually causing a flood. Daehyun bypassed the damaged sensor and manually reset the pressure levels. The valves closed. The water stopped flowing. The alarm cut off, leaving only the sound of dripping water and heavy breathing. The Veltharian chief engineer stared at him. "How did you know to do that?" "The system is more complex than ours on Earth, but the principles are the same," Daehyun said, wringing water from his coveralls. "Water is water. Pressure is pressure. You just have to understand what the system is trying to do and work with it, not against it." The engineer looked at him with something like respect. "I have studied this system for 20 years. "You understood it in moments," Daehyun shrugged. "I have been fixing broken recyclers since I was 16. You get a feel for it." News of the incident spread quickly through the station. The other candidates suddenly looked at Daehyun differently. He was not just the guy in coveralls anymore. He was the guy who fixed a crisis while they were still asking questions. Captain Taemin approached him that evening. "That was impressive today." "Just doing my job," Daehyun said. "Your job is to compete for the princess's choice. My job is to fix things that are broken. Everything else is a misunderstanding." Taemin studied him curiously. "You really do not want to be here, do you?" "I have work waiting back home, real work. Important work." You think this is not important? Daehyun sighed. I think there are 1,000 men here better suited for this than me. Stronger, smarter, more accomplished. I am just an engineer who ended up here by accident. Maybe, Taemin said, or maybe you are exactly what the princess is looking for. What do you mean? Have you noticed the trials are not measuring what everyone thinks they are measuring? They are not looking for the best warrior or the smartest scientist. They are looking for something else. What? Taemin smiled. I think the princess is looking for someone real. That night, Princess Hayrin reviewed the trial results in her private chambers. Lady Sua stood beside her reading from a datapad. Captain Taemin leads in combat scores. Dr. Morrison leads in scientific knowledge. Ambassador Chen leads in diplomatic simulations. And Daehyun? Hayrin asked. He is ranked in the bottom third of all candidates by traditional metrics. But, Sua smiled slightly, but he has been personally mentioned in incident reports more than any other candidate. He prevented a diplomatic incident with his observation about hand gestures. He fixed a technical problem our engineers could not solve. He saved the water recycling facility this morning. He does not excel in trials designed to measure excellence. He simply solves problems when he sees them. Hayrin nodded slowly. The trials measure what we think matters. But Daehyun reveals what actually matters. Your Highness, my people are dying because we optimized for the wrong things, Hayrin said quietly. We bred for intelligence and longevity and beauty. We eliminated everyone who did not meet our standards, and now we are too perfect to survive. She looked at the images on her screen. Daehyun is not perfect. He is average by most measures, but he is real. He is adaptable. He sees problems and fixes them without glory or recognition. He is what my people have forgotten how to be. You are considering choosing him, Sua said carefully. I am considering what choice would actually save my species. Is it the warrior who wins every fight? The scientist with the highest scores? Or is it the engineer who just fixes what is broken and moves on? Sua said nothing. She had served the princess long enough to know when Hayrin had already made up her mind. The final trial was announced the next morning. It was simple and strange. Each candidate would spend 1 hour in a room with Princess Hayrin. They could talk or not talk. They could try to impress her or not. It was entirely unstructured. The other candidates prepared speeches and rehearsed answers. They wore their finest clothes and practiced their most charming smiles. Daehyun just showed up in his coveralls. He had not packed anything else. When his turn came, he entered the room to find Princess Hayrin sitting by a window that showed Earth rotating slowly below them. She gestured to the chair across from her. Hello, Daehyun. Hello, Your Highness. They sat in silence for a long moment. You do not want to be here, she said finally. No offense intended, Daehyun said honestly. None taken. Tell me about your work, so he did. He told her about recycler systems and water purification. He told her about the challenges of creating sustainable habitats on Mars. He told her about the satisfaction of fixing something broken and making it work again. She listened. She asked questions. Real questions, not the polite questions of someone pretending to care. The hour passed quickly. As Daehyun stood to leave, Hayrin spoke again.
Why did you save the technician in the simulation?
Daehyun thought about it. Because he needed help, that is all. That is enough. Hayrin smiled, a strange and beautiful expression on her alien features. Yes, I think it is. The grand ceremony hall was built specifically for this moment. It stretched across 3 levels of the station, with crystalline walls that showed the stars beyond. Representatives from every Earth nation sat in carefully arranged sections. Veltharian nobles floated in observation platforms above, their robes trailing like waterfalls of liquid light. Daehyun stood near the back, behind pillars where he hoped no one would notice him. He had tried to leave that morning, one last attempt to explain the error, but security was tighter than ever. Everyone had to attend the ceremony. It was historic. It would be broadcast to billions across Earth and the Veltharian Empire. The candidates stood in formation at the front. Captain Taemin looked like a statue, perfectly composed. Ambassador Chen smiled confidently. Dr. Morrison adjusted his glasses nervously but stood tall. There were representatives from every continent, every field of human achievement. Daehyun just wanted it to be over so he could go home. Music began. something that sounded like wind chimes mixed with whale song. The crowd fell silent. A doorway opened at the top of the crystalline steps and Princess Hayren appeared. She wore robes that seemed to be made of starlight itself. Her silver skin glowed softly. Her hair moved in that impossible underwater way. She was beautiful and alien and utterly terrifying. She began to descend the steps slowly. Each step was deliberate, ceremonial. The candidates straightened their postures. Some smiled. Some tried to catch her eye. She walked past Captain Taemin without a glance, past Ambassador Chen, past Dr. Morrison, past the astronaut from Russia, the athlete from Kenya, the musician from Brazil. She walked past all of them, down to the section where the lower-ranked candidates stood. Daehyun realized with growing horror that she was walking toward his pillar. He tried to move deeper into the shadows, but there was nowhere to go. Princess Hayren walked directly to him and stopped. Her three-pupiled eyes met his. "You," she said in perfect Korean, her voice carrying across the silent hall. "You are my choice." The silence lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then chaos erupted. "Objection!" Ambassador Jiwoo shot to her feet. "Your Highness, there has been an error. That candidate should not even be present." "I am aware," Hayren said calmly. "I have reviewed his file. Daehyun, Environmental Systems Engineer. Present due to clerical error. Ranked in the bottom third of all candidates by traditional metrics. Then you cannot choose him. I can choose anyone present. He is present. I choose him." A Veltharian noble descended from above, his platform shimmering. "Princess, this is unacceptable. The human is nobody. He has no status, no achievements of note." "That is precisely why I choose him," Hayren said. She turned to face the assembled crowd, still standing beside Daehyun. "My people are dying because we have forgotten the value of the ordinary. We have bred for perfection until we lost the ability to survive. We need diversity, adaptability, and practical wisdom. We need someone who fixes what is broken without seeking glory." Daehyun found his voice finally. "Your Highness, I think there has been a misunderstanding. I'm not qualified for this. I am just an engineer. I fix air recyclers. I should not even be here." "I know exactly who you are," Hayren said gently. "You are someone who saves lives without calculating the cost to yourself. You are someone who solves problems because they need solving, not for recognition. You are someone who sees a broken system and makes it work." She turned back to the crowd. "You are exactly what my people need to remember." Ambassador Jiwoo was still standing. "Princess Hayren, I must protest on behalf of Earth's governments. This man has no diplomatic training, no experience with interstellar relations. Surely someone more qualified. Qualified by what measure?" Hayren interrupted. "Combat ability? We are not choosing a warrior. Scientific achievement? We are not choosing a researcher. Political connections? We are not choosing an ambassador." Her voice softened but remained firm. "We are choosing a partner to help save my species. We are choosing someone whose genetics and character can help us survive. Daehyun has both." Captain Taemin stepped forward. Unlike the others, he did not look angry. He looked thoughtful. "Your Highness, may I speak?" "Proceed. I have watched Daehyun during the trials. He is not the best fighter or the smartest scientist, but he is genuine. When there was a crisis with the water system, he did not ask for permission or calculate his chances. He just fixed it. When he saw the technician trapped in the simulation, he did not consider his score. He just helped." Taemin bowed slightly. "I believe the princess has chosen wisely." There was a moment of surprise. Then another voice joined in. The Veltharian engineer from the water recycling facility stood. "I also support this choice. The human Daehyun understood our systems better in minutes than I understood them in years. He has a gift for seeing the essential truth of things." Slowly more voices joined. Not all of them. Many candidates looked angry or confused. Many diplomats and officials were already calculating the political implications. But enough voices supported Hayren that the immediate protest died down. A figure appeared on the largest screen in the hall. It was an elderly Veltharian woman wearing a crown of crystallized light. "Empress Yeonhwa, ruler of the Veltharian Empire and Hayren's mother." "My daughter," the Empress said. Her voice was ancient and tired. "You have made an unusual choice." "Yes, mother, tell me why." Hayren took a breath. "Our people are dying because we optimized for the wrong things. We bred for traits we thought mattered and eliminated everything we thought was weakness. We made ourselves too perfect, too specialized. We lost the genetic diversity and cultural adaptability that allows species to survive. She gestured to Dae-hyun, who wanted to sink into the floor. Dae-hyun is not perfect by our measures or by human measures, but he represents something we lost: practical wisdom, humble service, the ability to fix things without fanfare. These are the traits that build civilizations and sustain them through crisis. The Empress was quiet for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, she smiled. You have learned something I hoped you would learn, my daughter. You have learned that survival is not about perfection. It is about adaptation. She turned her gaze to Dae-hyun. Human engineer, do you accept my daughter's choice? All eyes turned to Dae-hyun. He looked at Princess Haerin, who was watching him with an expression he could not read. He looked at the thousands of people in the hall and the billions watching across two worlds, Your Majesty. He said slowly, I need to be honest. I do not understand most of what is happening. I am not a hero or a genius. I am just someone who fixes broken things for a living. I do not know anything about being royal or diplomatic or whatever this requires. And yet, the Empress prompted, and yet, Princess Haerin chose me for a reason. I do not fully understand it, but I trust that she knows what she needs better than I do. He turned to Haerin. If you truly believe I can help, then I will try. I cannot promise I will be good at this, but I can promise I will do my best. Haerin smiled, and it transformed her face from alien to something almost human. That is all I ask, the Empress nodded. Then it is decided. The bonding period will begin. 90 cycles as tradition demands. In that time, Haerin and Dae-hyun will learn if they are truly compatible. She paused. And we will all learn if this path can save our people. The screen went dark. The ceremony was over, but the chaos was just beginning. Ambassador Ji-woo pushed through the crowd toward Dae-hyun. We need to talk, immediately. There are protocols, procedures. Ambassador, step back. Lady Sua appeared between them. Dae-hyun is now under Veltharian protection as the chosen consort. He is no longer subject to Earth's authority during the bonding period. Ji-woo's face hardened. This is not over. No, Sua agreed quietly. It is not. As the hall emptied, Dae-hyun found himself standing alone with Princess Haerin. The grandeur around them felt absurd. He was still wearing coveralls. She was wearing robes made of starlight. They were supposed to save two civilizations. I am sorry, Haerin said softly. For what? For putting this burden on you. You did not ask for it, Dae-hyun thought about that. He thought about the dying Veltharian species. He thought about the crying princess trying to save her people. He thought about all the people in the hall who had been rejected, who might have wanted this honor. No, he said finally, I did not ask for it. But sometimes life gives you problems you did not ask for. You can complain or you can try to fix them. He managed a small smile. I am good at fixing things. Haerin laughed, a sound like music. Yes, you are. So what happens now? Now we begin the bonding period. 90 cycles on my homeworld. You will learn our ways. I will learn yours. We will discover if we can truly be partners. And if we cannot, then my people die and humanity loses the greatest alliance it could have gained. No pressure then, Dae-hyun said weakly. No pressure, Haerin agreed. But her eyes were sad. They stood together in the empty hall, an alien princess and a human engineer, carrying the weight of two worlds on their unlikely shoulders. Outside the crystalline walls, Earth rotated slowly in the darkness, and beyond it, the Veltharian homeworld waited. Dae-hyun had no idea what he was doing. But he had spent his whole life not knowing what he was doing and figuring it out anyway. He supposed this would be the same, just with higher stakes and more witnesses. Okay, he said, let us fix this problem. Haerin to Dae-hyun stood at the viewing port of the shuttle, watching as they descended through clouds that glowed from within. Below, forests stretched across continents, but these trees pulsed with bioluminescent light, creating patterns that shifted like living art. Cities floated above the canopy, held aloft by technology he could not begin to understand. Everything glowed softly in shades of blue and silver and purple. It is beautiful, he whispered. Beside him, Princess Haerin smiled. Wait until you see the night. We have 3 moons, and when they align, the entire planet sings. Sings? The crystals in our architecture resonate with the gravitational harmony. You will hear it. Dae-hyun tried to imagine that and failed. He had been on the Veltharian homeworld for exactly 10 minutes, and already nothing made sense. The shuttle landed at the royal palace, which was not so much a building as a living structure grown from crystal and organic materials he could not identify. Lady Sua guided him through corridors that seemed to breathe. Walls pulsed with gentle light. The floor felt warm beneath his feet. "These will be your quarters during the bonding period," Sua said, opening a door to rooms that were larger than his entire apartment back in Seoul. "This is too much," Dae-hyun said. "This is actually quite modest by royal standards. Princess Haerin requested quarters that would not overwhelm you." Sua gestured around. "The walls can adjust transparency if you wish more privacy or more light. The temperature regulates automatically to your preference. Food preparation facilities are here, though you are welcome to dine in the common halls." Dae-hyun looked around helplessly. "I do not know how to use any of this." "You will learn. The princess has arranged for cultural guides to help you adjust." "What if I cannot adjust? What if I am terrible at this?" Sua's expression softened. She had lived between two cultures her entire life. She understood. "Dae-hyun, the princess did not choose you because she expects you to become Veltharian. She chose you because you are human with all that means. Be yourself. That is enough." She left him alone in rooms too large and too strange. Dae-hyun sat on the bed, which adjusted itself to his body in a way that was either amazing or disturbing. He looked around at the alien walls and the impossible architecture, and thought about his small apartment in Seoul, his job at the Mars program, his mother's restaurant where everything made sense. This was a mistake. This whole thing was a mistake. A chime sounded at the door. Dae-hyun opened it to find Haerin standing there, no longer in her ceremonial robes. She wore something simpler, though still beautiful. "I thought you might be feeling overwhelmed," she said. "Is it that obvious? You have the expression of someone who just realized what they agreed to." Dae-hyun laughed despite himself. "Yeah, that is accurate. Would you like to take a walk? I find that moving helps when the mind is too loud." They walked through the palace gardens, which were not really gardens in any way Dae-hyun understood. Plants grew in impossible spirals. Water flowed upward instead of down. Small creatures that might have been insects or might have been something else entirely drifted through the air, trailing light. "How are you feeling?" Haerin asked. "Honestly? Terrified. This place is incredible, but I do not understand any of it. I keep thinking about all the ways I am going to mess this up." "You fixed our water recycling system in minutes." "That is different. That is just plumbing. This is..." He gestured helplessly at everything. "This is an entire civilization that is too advanced for me to understand." Haerin stopped walking. "May I tell you something about my people?" "Of course. We are very advanced technologically. We can fold space and manipulate matter and extend our lives for centuries. But we have forgotten how to fix things." She touched a nearby plant, which responded by glowing brighter. "We create marvels, but when they break, we often do not know how to repair them. We replace instead of fix. We optimize instead of adapt. I do not understand what that has to do with me." "Everything," Haerin said. "You see a broken water system and fix it. You see a trapped person and save them. You see a problem and you solve it without overthinking. My people have lost that. We analyze and debate and calculate until the problem becomes worse." Dae-hyun thought about that. "So you want me to fix your civilization like I would fix a recycler?" "I want you to show us that sometimes the simple solution is the right solution. That sometimes practical wisdom matters more than technological advancement." They walked in silence for a while. The garden path led them to a fountain that defied physics with water forming shapes in midair. "Can I ask you something?" Dae-hyun said. "Anything. Why did you really choose me? I know what you said at the ceremony, but there were 100 humans there more qualified than me." Haerin considered her answer carefully. "I have been groomed my entire life to be the perfect princess. Every choice was made for me. What to study, what to wear, how to speak, who to befriend. Everything was optimized for the good of the empire." She looked at him with those strange three-pupiled eyes. "You were the first thing I chose for myself. The first choice that was truly mine. That is a lot of pressure to put on one person. I know. I am sorry." "Do not be sorry." Dae-hyun sat on the edge of the fountain, which adjusted itself to accommodate him. "I understand what it is like to feel like you are not living your own life. I became an engineer because it was practical, not because I loved it. I work on Mars habitats because it pays well, not because it is my dream." "What is your dream?" No one had ever asked him that before. Daehyun thought about it. I think I just want to build something that matters. Something that helps people. Not for glory or recognition, just to know that I made something better than I found it. Haerin smiled. That is a good dream. Over the next weeks, Daehyun slowly adjusted to life on the Veltharian homeworld. The cultural guides were patient as he struggled with customs and etiquette. He made mistakes constantly. He used the wrong gesture, said the wrong thing, wore inappropriate clothing to formal dinners. But he also started to understand things. He noticed that the palace's environmental controls were inefficient, cycling air through unnecessary filters. He suggested a modification that reduced energy use by 15%. The engineers were skeptical at first, then amazed when it worked. He noticed that the food preparation systems were overly complex, with dozens of steps for tasks that could be simplified. He showed the kitchen staff shortcuts that saved hours of work without reducing quality. He noticed that the transportation systems in the floating cities followed routes optimized by ancient algorithms that no longer matched current population patterns. He proposed new routes based on actual usage data. Traffic improved immediately. Small things, practical things. But people noticed. He also spent time with Haerin. They had breakfast together most mornings. She taught him about Veltharian history and culture. He taught her about Earth, about Seoul, about his mother's restaurant and the smell of kimchi jjigae cooking on a winter morning. I would like to try your mother's cooking someday, Haerin said one morning. You would like it. She puts too much garlic in everything, but it is good. Tell me about her. So Daehyun did. He told her about his mother who ran a small restaurant, who worked 16 hours a day, who had supported his education even when money was tight. He told her about his father who had died when Daehyun was young, and how his mother had kept the family together through strength and stubbornness. She sounds remarkable, Haerin said. She is. She would like you, I think. She always said the best people are the ones who do not need to prove they are important. What do you think she would say about all this? Daehyun laughed. She would say I better not embarrass the family by using the wrong fork at a royal dinner. But there were hard moments, too. Moments when the cultural differences felt too vast. When Daehyun felt completely lost and alone. When he missed Earth so much it physically hurt. One night, about 6 weeks into the bonding period, he sat in his quarters staring at the walls. He had tried to video call his mother, but the time delay made conversation impossible. He felt more alone than he ever had in his life. The door chimed. He almost did not answer, but it chimed again. Haerin stood there in simple clothing, carrying a container. I thought you might be homesick. I attempted to make something from Earth. Daehyun looked at the container. Inside was something that was almost but not quite like rice and vegetables. It smelled wrong and looked strange, but the effort was so genuine that his eyes watered. You tried to cook Korean food? I researched recipes. I may have gotten some ingredients wrong. Our food library has limited Earth options. Daehyun tasted it. It was terrible. The rice was too sticky. The vegetables were wrong. The seasoning was completely off. It was the worst Korean food he had ever eaten. It is perfect, he said, and meant it. They sat together eating the terrible food, and somehow that made him feel less alone. They talked about nothing important, about their favorite seasons, their worst embarrassing moments, the small things that make a person real. Can I tell you something? Haerin said quietly. Always. 3 weeks before the bonding ceremony, Daehyun woke to find security guards at his door. Daehyun, you are under arrest, the lead guard said. His face was carefully neutral, but his hand rested on his weapon. What? Why? You are accused of espionage against the Veltharian Empire. You will come with us. Daehyun's mind went blank. Espionage? That was insane. He barely understood Veltharian technology, let alone how to steal it. There has been a mistake. I need to speak to Princess Haerin. The princess has been informed. She cannot speak with you until the investigation is complete. They took him to a detention facility deep in the palace complex. The room was small and sparse, with walls that hummed with some kind of energy field. A Veltharian official arrived an hour later, carrying a datapad. I am Investigator Bong-soo, the official said. I will be direct. We have evidence that you transmitted classified Veltharian technology specifications to Earth contacts. That is impossible. I do not even know what most of your technology does, let alone how to steal it. Bong-soo tapped his datapad. A holographic display appeared, showing technical diagrams of Veltharian systems. These files were found in your personal quarters. They contain detailed specifications of our fold space drive, our energy generation systems, and our biological enhancement processes. Dae-hyun stared at the diagrams. He had never seen them before. Someone planted those files. I did not put them there. We also have communications logs showing transmissions from your quarters to an Earth-based receiver. That is impossible. I only communicated with my mother, and those were regular video calls with full delays for distance. Anyone can check the logs. We have checked the logs. The transmissions are encrypted and hidden within other communications, very sophisticated. Then someone who actually understands sophisticated technology did this because I do not. Bong-soo studied him. Your defense is that you are too unsophisticated to be a spy? My defense is that I am an environmental systems engineer who fixes water recyclers. I do not know encryption or covert communications. I barely understand my own phone. Yet you quickly understood our water recycling systems. Understanding how water flows through pipes is not the same as understanding quantum encryption or whatever you use for secret communications. The interrogation continued for hours. They showed him footage that supposedly showed him accessing restricted files. They showed him communications that supposedly proved his guilt. Everything was carefully constructed to look damning. But Dae-hyun noticed something. He always noticed things. Can I see that footage again? He asked. The one that shows me accessing files at midnight. Bong-soo pulled it up. The footage showed Dae-hyun's quarters and a figure that looked like Dae-hyun sitting at a terminal, working. Look at the window, Dae-hyun said. What about it? Look at the light. That is supposed to be midnight, right? But the light outside is wrong. Your planet has a specific light cycle. I have been here for 2 months. I know what midnight looks like from my window, and that is not it. Bong-soo leaned closer. Explain. At midnight, the bioluminescent forest pulse in a specific pattern. Blue first, then purple, then back to blue. It is like a heartbeat. In that footage, the pattern is wrong. The colors are right, but the timing is off. The footage could have been taken on a different night. Then check the timestamp. If it says midnight on the 45th cycle, check what the forest pattern should have been at that time. I bet it does not match the footage. Bong-soo was quiet for a long moment. Then he made notes on his data pad. We will verify this. Someone faked that footage. Someone who understands your technology well enough to forge it, but who does not notice small details like light patterns. Why would someone frame you? Because some people do not want this bonding to succeed. Some people think a nobody engineer from Earth is not worthy of your princess, and some people have a lot to gain if this union fails. Bong-soo said nothing, but his expression suggested Dae-hyun might be right. Meanwhile, Princess Hae-rin was having her own confrontation. She had been summoned before the High Council immediately after Dae-hyun's arrest. Lord Hyeon-woo stood at the head of the chamber, his expression serious. Princess, this is most unfortunate, he said. The human you chose has betrayed our trust. I do not believe that, Hae-rin said firmly. The evidence is clear. Evidence can be fabricated. Are you suggesting we would fabricate evidence against your chosen consort? Lord Hyeon-woo's voice carried just enough outrage to sound genuine. That would be a serious accusation. I am suggesting that someone benefits from this accusation. Someone who never wanted this union to succeed. Lady Sua stepped forward. She had been researching since Dae-hyun's arrest, pulling records that should have been restricted. My lady, I have found something. Speak. The files supposedly found in Dae-hyun's quarters were accessed from a terminal in the palace archive. The access was authorized using credentials that belonged to a clerk who retired 15 years ago. Lord Hyeon-woo waved dismissively. That proves nothing. The human could have stolen those credentials. Dae-hyun did not even know we had a palace archive until last week, Hae-rin said. I took him there myself. It was his first visit. Then he had an accomplice. Or someone with access to old credentials and knowledge of our archive systems framed him, Sua said quietly. Someone Veltharian. The council chamber fell silent. Accusing another Veltharian of conspiracy against the crown was serious. But Hae-rin was past caring about diplomatic niceties. I want a full investigation, she said, not just of Dae-hyun, but of everyone who had access to those files, those credentials, and the surveillance systems that supposedly recorded him. Princess, that would include dozens of officials, including members of this council, Lord Hyeon-woo protested. Good. Then we will clear all their names when we find the real culprit. This is inappropriate. What is inappropriate is arresting my chosen consort 3 weeks before our bonding ceremony, on evidence that does not withstand basic scrutiny. Heyrin's voice was cold. Daehyun noticed the light patterns in the footage were wrong, a simple detail that no one else caught. That is what he does. He notices things. He sees what others miss. And right now I am starting to see things too. What are you implying? I am implying that my choice threatens certain political interests. I am implying that some people would prefer I choose someone more controllable, someone whose family has old connections to the High Council. Someone like your son, perhaps, Lord Hyun-woo? The accusation hung in the air. Lord Hyun-woo's expression hardened. You overstep, Princess. No, I am finally seeing clearly. In the detention cell, Daehyun was using his time productively. He could not access networks or communicate with anyone, but he could observe. And what he observed was interesting. The detention field that kept him contained operated on a specific frequency. He could hear it, a faint hum that most people would ignore. But Daehyun had spent years working with environmental systems, learning to diagnose problems by sound alone. This field hummed wrong. It was a small thing, a slight fluctuation in the frequency that suggested the field generator was working harder than it should, like a recycler pump that was about to fail, or a filter that was getting clogged. Daehyun started paying attention to when the fluctuations occurred. Every hour the hum would spike slightly. Then it would settle back to normal. Regular as clockwork. He thought about that. Regular fluctuations meant regular strain. Regular strain meant something was cycling power. And if something was cycling power, that meant the field was sharing its power supply with another system. Daehyun smiled. Everything was connected. That was the first rule of environmental systems. You could not change one thing without affecting another. And if the detention field shared power with another system, and that system cycled regularly, he just had to wait for the right moment. On the 68th cycle of his detention, late in the sleep period, Daehyun heard the hum spike. He stood up and walked to the field boundary. The shimmer of energy was visible like heat waves in summer. He pulled out his multi-tool. They had taken his personal belongings, but they had let him keep the multi-tool. It was just a simple device, nothing that could be used as a weapon. They did not understand that to an engineer, everything was a tool. Daehyun extended the electromagnetic probe from the multi-tool. It was designed for testing circuits and finding power leaks. He held it near the field boundary and watched the readings. The field strength dropped during the power spike just for a moment. Just enough. He waited until the next spike. When the field flickered, he pushed through. It hurt. Energy crackled across his skin. Alarms started blaring immediately. But he was through. Daehyun did not run. Running would be stupid. Instead, he walked calmly to the facility's main control room. The guards were already responding to the alarm, running toward his empty cell. He accessed a public terminal in the control room. He did not try to hack anything or access restricted systems. He just opened a communication channel to the one person who could help him. Lady Sua, this is Daehyun. I know I am not supposed to contact anyone, but I just escaped from detention, and I need you to record this. I have about 3 minutes before security finds me. Sua's face appeared on the screen, shocked. Daehyun, what are you doing? Sua's face appeared on the screen, shocked. After Daehyun's escape and recapture, everything changed. His call to Lady Sua had been recorded. The information he provided could not be ignored. Investigator Bong-soo began checking the details Daehyun mentioned, and everything matched. The light patterns were wrong in the footage. The archive access was suspicious. The timing was too convenient. But proving conspiracy against powerful nobles was difficult. Lord Hyun-woo had allies on the High Council. He had connections across the Veltharian Empire. And he was careful. Every action had been routed through intermediaries, every command hidden behind layers of authorization. Princess Hyrene sat in her chambers, frustrated. We know he did this, but we cannot prove it. Not in time for the bonding ceremony, Lady Sua paced. We need evidence that directly connects Lord Hyun-woo to the fabricated files or the false testimony. Without that, he will claim it was rogue elements acting without his knowledge. Then we find that evidence. How? We have 12 days until the ceremony deadline. After that, the High Council can legally force you to choose another consort. Heyrin stood abruptly. Then I will do what Dae-hyun would do. I will stop trying to solve this the sophisticated way and start looking for the simple solution. What do you mean? Dae-hyun always says that complex systems have simple vulnerabilities. That the best way to find a problem is to look at who benefits from it. So who benefits if this bonding fails? Lord Hyunwoo's son Kyung-soo would become the prime candidate. And what does Kyung-soo gain? Sua thought about it. Connection to the royal bloodline. Political influence. Control over the genetic integration program. Control, Hayren repeated. That is what this is about. Control over how humans and Veltharians merge. Control over which families gain power from the new hybrid generation. She turned to Sua. Find out who else stands to gain from Lord Hyunwoo's faction, controlling the integration program. Follow the simple path. Who benefits, who loses. Meanwhile, in detention, Dae-hyun was having visitors. Not official visitors. The guards had been told no one was allowed to see him. But the guards were not paying attention to the maintenance staff. A human woman in cleaning coveralls pushed a cart past Dae-hyun's cell. She paused, glancing around, then whispered, "Are you Dae-hyun?" "Yes, I am Minji. I clean the palace. Word is spreading among the human staff that you are being framed. You believe me? Of course. We all know you. You fixed the air recycler in the South Wing when the Veltharian engineers said it was impossible. You showed the kitchen staff how to reduce food waste by 40%. You helped the gardener understand why his earth plants kept dying." She smiled. "You are one of us. We look after our own. I appreciate that, but I do not see how you can help." Neither did we at first. But then we started thinking the way you would. We asked ourselves who had access to plant those files. Who could forge credentials? Who could fake surveillance footage? Another human appeared, a man in maintenance coveralls. "I am Jae-sung. I maintain the surveillance systems. Those faked recordings? They were made using archive footage of you, digitally altered and inserted into the timeline. But the alteration was not perfect. There are compression artifacts that should not be there. Can you prove it? Not officially. I am just a technician. But I can show other technicians. I can spread the technical truth until enough people see it that they cannot ignore it." Minji leaned closer. "There are 200 humans working in the palace. Cleaners, cooks, technicians, gardeners. We are invisible to most Veltharians, but we see everything. We know where people go, what they do, who they meet with in secret, and we talk to each other. What are you suggesting?" "We are suggesting that while the nobles play their political games, we do what humans do best. We fix the problem practically." Jae-sung grinned. One of the kitchen staff overheard Lord Hyunwoo talking to Ambassador Ji-woo from Earth. They were planning to meet again tonight in the East Garden. "We thought you might want to know that. I am in a detention cell, for now. But security shifts change in 2 hours, and the new shift includes a human guard named Tai-il, who believes you are innocent. He will not help you escape, but he might be slow to notice if you found a way out yourself." Dae-hyun stared at them. "You are organizing a conspiracy." "We are organizing a solution," Minji corrected. "The sophisticated people with their sophisticated plans got you locked up. Maybe it is time for the unsophisticated people to fix things." After they left, Dae-hyun sat thinking. He could escape again. He knew the detention field's weakness now. But escape alone would not help. He needed evidence. He needed to catch Lord Hyunwoo and Ambassador Ji-woo in the act of conspiring. 2 hours later, as promised, the guard shift changed. The new guard, Tai-il, took his position outside Dae-hyun's cell. He did not say anything, but he turned his attention to his datapad, becoming very interested in something on the screen. Dae-hyun used his multi-tool again, timing his escape for the moment when the detention field flickered during its power cycle. The alarm blared. Tai-il looked up, startled, and reached for his communication device. Then he fumbled it, dropping it on the floor. By the time he picked it up and called for backup, Dae-hyun was already gone. The East Garden was one of the most beautiful places in the palace. Floating platforms held flowering plants from a dozen worlds. Bioluminescent vines created curtains of soft light. It was romantic and private, which was why conspirators liked meeting there. Dae-hyun hid in the maintenance access corridors that ran beneath the garden platforms. He could hear voices above him. Lord Hyunwoo and Ambassador Ji-woo speaking quietly. "The human is still in detention," Lord Hyunwoo said. "The evidence against him is weakening, but we have bought enough time. The bonding ceremony deadline will pass and Hyrin will be forced to choose another consort." "Your son is ready?" Ji-woo asked. "Kyung-soo will make an acceptable consort. More importantly, he will ensure that Earth's interests are properly represented in the integration program. Your government will receive the technology transfers we discussed, and your faction maintains control of the genetic material. Everyone wins, except the princess and her pet engineer. They laughed. Dae-hyun recorded everything on his multi-tool's basic audio capture function. It was not sophisticated, but it was clear enough. Then he made his mistake. He shifted his weight and a maintenance panel creaked. The conversation above stopped. "What was that?" Ji-woo asked. "A rat, perhaps," Lord Hyun-woo said, but his voice was suspicious. Dae-hyun heard footsteps approaching his position. He had two choices, run or confront. Running was smarter. Confronting was stupid. He chose stupid. Dae-hyun climbed up through the access panel, emerging onto the garden platform. Lord Hyun-woo and Ambassador Ji-woo stared at him in shock. "Hello?" Dae-hyun said. "Sorry to interrupt. I was just fixing some pipes down there and could not help but overhear you discussing your conspiracy to frame me and manipulate the royal succession." Lord Hyun-woo recovered quickly. "Guards, the prisoner has escaped." "I recorded your conversation," Dae-hyun said. "Everything you just said about technology transfers and controlling the genetic program. I recorded it." "Then we will destroy your recording device," Lord Hyun-woo said coldly. "You can try, but I already transmitted it to about 200 people. Every human worker in the palace has a copy now. You can silence me, but you cannot silence all of them." It was a bluff. His multi-tool could not transmit files. But Lord Hyun-woo did not know that. Guards arrived, surrounding them. But they did not move immediately. They were waiting for orders, and the situation was confused. Then Princess Hae-rin arrived with Lady Sua and a full security detail. She looked at Dae-hyun, at Lord Hyun-woo, at Ambassador Ji-woo. "Explain," she commanded. Lord Hyun-woo spoke first. "The prisoner escaped and attacked us. He is clearly dangerous. Is that true, Dae-hyun?" Hae-rin asked. "I escaped, yes. Attacked them, no. I was hiding in the maintenance corridor when I overheard them discussing their conspiracy. I recorded it." He held up his multi-tool. "He is lying," Lord Hyun-woo said quickly. "Then you will not mind if we listen to the recording," Hae-rin said. "This is absurd. You would take the word of a human criminal over a noble of the empire? I would take the word of evidence over the word of anyone." Dae-hyun played the recording. The voices were clear. The conspiracy was obvious. Lord Hyun-woo had been too confident, too open in his statements. When it finished, Hae-rin turned to her security detail. "Arrest Lord Hyun-woo and Ambassador Ji-woo for conspiracy against the crown. You cannot do this." Lord Hyun-woo protested. "I have allies. The High Council will not allow. The High Council will hear this recording and make their decision based on evidence, not politics." Hae-rin's voice was cold. "You gambled that I would be too weak to challenge you. You were wrong." As the guards took Lord Hyun-woo and Ji-woo away, Hae-rin turned to Dae-hyun. "You escaped detention. Again, I'm sorry. But I needed evidence. You could have been killed." "But I was not. I just recorded a conversation and climbed out of a maintenance corridor." "Nothing complicated." Hae-rin looked at him for a long moment. Then to his surprise, she laughed. "Nothing complicated. You just single-handedly exposed a conspiracy that we spent days trying to prove, using a simple audio recording." The bonding ceremony was different from the selection ceremony. There were fewer politicians, fewer diplomats trying to position themselves for advantage. Instead, the hall was filled with ordinary people, Veltharian workers who had met Dae-hyun during his time in the palace, human staff who had helped him expose the conspiracy, scientists interested in the genetic compatibility, families hoping for a future where their children would not face extinction. Dae-hyun stood at the front, wearing robes that were a blend of human and Veltharian design. They had let him keep his multi-tool in his pocket. Some traditions were too important to leave behind. Princess Hae-rin descended the same crystalline steps she had walked during the selection, but this time she was not choosing from thousands. She was walking toward the one person she had already chosen, the one who had proven himself not through strength or brilliance, but through simple decency. The ceremony itself was beautiful and strange. There were words in Veltharian that Dae-hyun had practiced but did not fully understand. There were rituals involving light and water and the touching of foreheads, but the meaning was clear. Two people from two worlds joining together in hope. When it came time for Dae-hyun to speak, he set aside the formal words he had memorized. They felt wrong, too polished, too much like something someone else would say. "I am still just an engineer," he said, his voice carrying across the hall. "I still do not understand half of Veltharian technology, and I definitely embarrassed myself at formal events more times than I can count. I am not a hero or a genius. I am just someone who fixes things when they break." He looked at Haerin. "But maybe that is what both our peoples need right now. Not someone who promises grand solutions or dramatic changes, just someone who looks at what is broken and works to fix it, one small problem at a time. Someone who values the ordinary work that keeps civilizations running." He turned to face the crowd. "I learned something during my time here. Your people are not dying because you are weak or because your technology failed. You are dying because you forgot to value the people who do the essential work. The people who maintain systems, who grow food, who raise children, who fix what breaks. You optimized for perfection until you lost the diversity that makes life resilient." Murmurs ran through the Veltharian observers. This was not the speech they expected. But here is the thing about humans. We are not perfect. We make mistakes. We argue and fight and fail constantly. But we survive because we adapt, because we value different kinds of strength. Because when sophisticated solutions fail, we find simple ones. He took Haerin's hand. "I cannot save your civilization by myself. But together, by remembering that every person has value, by mixing Veltharian wisdom with human adaptability, maybe we can build something that survives. Not something perfect, but something real." Haerin spoke next, her voice strong. "Dae-hyun is right. My people have spent generations seeking perfection, and it has brought us to the edge of extinction. We need to remember what my ancestors knew. Civilizations are not built by royalty alone. They are built by farmers and engineers, by parents and teachers, by everyone who contributes to the whole." She addressed the Veltharian observers directly. "Some of you questioned my choice. You wanted a warrior or a diplomat, someone with titles and accomplishments. But I chose someone who embodies the values we need to survive. Someone who fixes problems without seeking glory. Someone who sees a person in trouble and helps them, regardless of the cost to himself." The ceremony concluded with the traditional bonding ritual. Veltharian biology was complex, but the genetic compatibility was confirmed. The first step toward saving the species had been taken. But Dae-hyun knew this was not really an ending. It was a beginning. The day after the ceremony, he went back to work. Not royal work or diplomatic work, but real work. There was a malfunctioning air recycler in the palace's lower levels that had been giving the maintenance staff problems for weeks. Dae-hyun spent the morning fixing it while Veltharian engineers watched and took notes. "The problem is here," he explained, showing them a valve that was corroded. "You have been treating this like a complex technological failure, but it is just basic chemistry. This metal corrodes when exposed to moisture and the specific mix of gases you are using. Change the valve material to something inert and the problem stops." The chief engineer shook his head in amazement. "We ran diagnostics for 2 weeks. Diagnostics are good, but sometimes you just need to look at the system and see what is actually wrong, not what the computer says is wrong." Word spread. The human consort was not sitting in the palace doing ceremonial duties. He was in coveralls fixing things. Princess Haerin found him that afternoon. "You are supposed to be meeting with the Cultural Integration Committee." I sent my apologies. This was more important. A broken air recycler is more important than planning our people's future. This air recycler serves 300 people. If it fails, those people cannot breathe. That seems pretty important. He wiped grease off his hands. Besides, I am terrible at committees. I would just sit there not understanding half of what people say. That is the point. You would ask the questions others are afraid to ask. You would point out the obvious problems everyone else ignores. Dae-hyun considered that. "Okay, I will go to your committees. But I am also fixing broken air recyclers. Deal?" "Deal." Over the following months, something unexpected happened. Dae-hyun became a bridge not just between human and Veltharian biology, but between cultures. He started a program bringing human workers to the Veltharian homeworld. Not soldiers or diplomats, but engineers, farmers, teachers, craftspeople. A farmer named Yoon-ji arrived and spent 3 months teaching Veltharians about crop rotation and soil management. The Veltharians had advanced hydroponic systems, but they had forgotten the basics of working with natural soil. Food production increased by 20%. A teacher named Ho Jin started a school where human and Veltharian children learned together. The Veltharian children learned human adaptability and creativity. The human children learned Veltharian discipline and long-term thinking. An engineer named Sunmi worked with Daehyun to redesign the palace's entire environmental system, making it more efficient and easier to maintain. They trained Veltharian staff not just to operate the systems, but to understand them deeply enough to fix problems themselves. Small changes. Practical changes, but they added up. 3 years after the bonding ceremony, Daehyun stood in a medical facility, holding his daughter for the first time. She had Haeren's silver skin but Daehyun's dark eyes. Her hair moved like water, but she had perfectly human hands. She was a blend of 2 species, proof that the genetic compatibility worked. "We are naming her Nabi," Haeren said softly, "for the butterfly, symbol of transformation." "I like it," Daehyun said. He looked at the tiny life in his arms and felt overwhelmed. This child represented the hope of an entire species. "Stop that," Haeren said gently. "Stop what?" "Stop thinking about the weight of it. Stop thinking about what she represents to the Empire. Just think about what she is, our daughter." Daehyun smiled. "You are right, sorry, engineer habit. Always thinking about what things mean for the system. Sometimes things just are. Sometimes a child is just a child." Nabi yawned, showing a mouth that was definitely more Veltharian than human. Daehyun laughed. His daughter, his family, his impossible life. 5 years after the bonding ceremony, the situation had transformed completely. 16 human Veltharian children had been born, each one different, each one healthy. The genetic bottleneck was beginning to ease. More importantly, Veltharian culture was changing. The Empire had started valuing different kinds of work. They created new positions for people who maintained systems rather than just operating them. They opened schools that taught practical skills alongside theoretical knowledge. They began to see that perfection was not the goal. Adaptation was. Daehyun spent less time in the palace and more time in rural areas. He and Haeren had agreed that their role was not to rule from above, but to teach from within. They traveled to small communities, showing people that royalty could work with their hands, that nobility did not mean separation from ordinary life. One afternoon, they were in a farming village on the edge of the settled territories. A water purification system had failed, and Daehyun was working to fix it. Haeren was helping organize a farming cooperative, teaching the villagers how humans and Veltharians could work together more efficiently. Nabi played nearby with other children, both human and Veltharian. She was 5 now, speaking both languages fluently, comfortable in both cultures. She had her father's practical nature and her mother's determination. An elderly Veltharian approached Daehyun as he worked. "Your Highness, is this not beneath your station?" It was the same question people always asked, even after 5 years. Daehyun smiled. He had learned that smile from his wife. "What is my station?" "You are consort to the princess. You are father to the next generation. I am an engineer. That is what I am. Everything else is just titles people gave me." He tightened a connection on the purification unit. "And no, fixing a water system that 300 people depend on is not beneath anyone. This is essential work. It matters."